Our little slumdog millionaire Dev Patel is all grown up and he is kicking ass. He comes out swinging, quite literally, with his directorial debut. Let's talk about Monkey Man. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for the new film Monkey Man. This is playing in theaters right now, had a great opening weekend, and it stars Dev Patel. He also co-wrote the script, and he is directing for the first time with this feature film. So there is a lot to talk about here. Before we launch into it, though, let me welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thank you for finding this video. We do movie and TV reviews here on the channel, and just about every day something new goes up. So there's always a lot to check out, a lot of stuff going on here on the channel. Please consider subscribing, like the video below, comment below, all that stuff, of course, helps the channel out, and I certainly do appreciate it. All right, so look, I am a Dev Patel fan from back in the Slumdog days. Slumdog Millionaire is still one of my top 50 films of all time. I love it so much. I've seen it many, many times. And that was his first film, believe it or not. And he killed it in it. So good. And, you know, we've watched him, you know, collectively for the last 15 or so years, really kind of honing his craft as an actor. He's been in some really, really great dramatic films like Lion, which I believe he might have been nominated for an Oscar for. And he's done some popcorn movies as well. That terrible Last Airbender movie from M. Night Shyamalan. He did the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel movies, but he's never done anything quite like this. This is a hard-hitting, again, quite literally, revenge story in the tradition of, you know, some recent entries in that vein, like John Wick. This is a personal story for this character, and he goes through a journey that we won't really go into here, but the basic premise of the film is that he is making a meager living doing these underground fights with a gorilla mask on. That's like his thing. So he's known as the Monkey Man. And he basically takes dives so that he can win money from, you know, the people in charge of the event. So he gets, you know, beaten up. But he has this past that he wants to avenge, let's say, with his village. And he knows exactly, you know, who to go after and how to do that. So he sort of moves up in his way. So he has access to certain people. And I think plot-wise, that's all I'm going to say. And this is one of these movies, you know, look, I don't watch trailers, so I knew very little about this going into it. But they are heavily promoting that not only is this directed by Dev Patel, but that this is produced by Jordan Peele. And that, I think, has a certain connotation for people, and that includes a horror type of movie or a thriller, perhaps. But this is neither of those things. I mean, this is a straight-ahead action movie. There's certainly some drama here, too, in some of the more quieter moments, but this is a very, very heavy action flick, which is not something we normally associate with Jordan Peele. But as I was watching it, I was thinking, you know, sure, we know Jordan Peele for his horror stuff, and of course, you know, before that, Key and Peele, we know him for his comedy. But in the feature film world, we know him mostly for you know, the horror movies, Get Out, Us. But what both of those movies have in common, and his more recent entry, Nope, which is maybe a little horror, but I think there's more sci-fi there than anything. But what those movies all have in common is they are great stories. Jordan Peele is a storyteller. And that is something that this movie has in spades, more so than a lot of the sort of the bare-knuckled, no-brain action movies, you know, of the last however many decades. You know, movies like, you know, the Stallone and Schwarzenegger vehicles maybe of the 80s and 90s, and more recently like the Expendables and Jason Statham movies and that kind of thing. No, this movie really has a brain, and it's got characters that you can get behind, heroes that you can get behind. And as a matter of fact, I wouldn't be surprised if this ends up being a franchise of sorts, you know, a la John Wick or The Equalizer or something like that, because the character certainly has that potential. And Dev Patel, like I mentioned, plays the lead here, known as Kid, or Monkey Man. But So let's talk a little bit about the negatives, though, because the biggest negative for me, unfortunately, is Patel's directing. Now, I will admit, I think probably when there is a feature film debut from an actor turned director, I probably do look a little bit more at the directing. As maybe normally would just, let it kind of wash over me. But here, knowing, okay, this is Dev Patel's first entry as a feature film director, how is he doing? Kind of checking in. And I will say that I wish he had really stuck to the acting and the writing. Because the directing, I think, is probably the weakest element of this film. And it's not necessarily, I wouldn't say it's bad direction. I would just say he's trying to do way too much, trying to be really clever, trying to be very interesting with some of the shots. And some of them, I will say, were kind of cool. In one of the final fight scenes, there is sort of like a mirrored room. And so there were some interesting things going on with that. But he really wants you to be like, you are there kind of directing. So he wants you to really feel like you're in the moment. So there's a lot of shaky cam and everybody's running. You can't really tell what's going on. And in some of the fight sequences, especially towards the end, where there's more darkly lit rooms, it's a little hard to see what's going on, especially with the way that the camera is moving, and then you add the lack of light to that. So I have to say, unfortunately, I wish he had maybe handed the reins off to a more competent director. And I'm not saying Jordan Peele specifically, but somebody else maybe where he could have focused more on the acting, because his performance is great. I don't think, even in a bad movie, I don't think I've ever seen Dev Patel give a bad performance. Now, the last Airbender movie, there's a lot that can be said about that. It's a terrible movie, but none of that was really his fault. It was his second movie. He was hot off a Slumdog, and sure, let's pick the hot new kid in Hollywood to portray this role. Look, it didn't work as a movie at all, but I never blamed Dev Patel for that failing. So look, he's giving 110% here like he normally does. And some of the fight choreography is really well done. The last, I don't know, 20 minutes is like all action, and it really does get you involved with that. And there's some gory stuff here too. Definitely some gore with the violence, like a John Wick perhaps. But with that in mind, I would say this is probably the best straight ahead action movie probably since John Wick 4. No, I mean, Mission Impossible, I guess. Last year's Mission Impossible was great, but certainly for a revenge movie, it does rank up there for me with some of those John Wick films, or, it's probably better than all the Equalizer films. Those are okay. But yeah, I can definitely see this being a franchise. I like the different themes that are involved here, because not only do you have sort of that revenge plot, but there's also a lot about, class warfare, and there's some transgender stuff in there, which I wasn't really expecting. That is sort of a political theme of this movie as well. So look, overall, I think for the directing, it's a bit of a swing and a miss, but his acting is on point as always, and I would like to see more of this character and kind of see where we go from here, now that the specific revenge that he was seeking is, maybe put to bed. But look, John Wick, we've gotten many, many movies, out of that premise. So we'll see. But for now, I leave Monkey Man with a B. You can see this in theaters right now. Thank you for watching Dan Reviews It. We'll see you next time.